What is going on, Reefers? Welcome back to another video. I'm sitting purposely this way so you guys can't see the new lighting setup for the 65-gallon aquarium behind me. But as you guys know, I was running two Amazon LED lights, the Hypergera Aqua Nights. Very low powered, especially for this size aquarium. I was needing to upgrade on the Innovative Marine 30-gallon long, but I just kind of stuck through it, and then I ended up purchasing this tank and obviously setting it all up, as you guys know, in the past few videos. So it's hard not to talk how I normally talk, because I do a bunch of gestures, but I'm not trying to move my head or anything, because I'm not trying to show you guys the light quite yet. But you guys know that I was deciding between a couple different lights. I was deciding between the Kessil AP9X. I was sort of considering the Radion, the Gen 5s, but I wasn't quite sure. I've never really worked with Ecotech, so I wasn't very confident on that. And then of course the Aqua Illumination, either the AI Primes 16 HDs or the Hydra 32s. Just a little bit of a backstory before I get into the light that I purchased. When I went to the store, I was set on getting the AI Primes 16 HDs. I was gonna get two of them, two mounts, walk out of the door. That was gonna be my light. When I got there, they didn't have them. They actually had a very few select lights, and then I ended up purchasing a light that I never thought I would get before. So without further ado, I'm going to show you guys the light right now. Yep, that is right. I went with a Kessil A360X. So why did I go with the 360X over the AP9X, over the Radion Gen 5 XR15s, and of course the AI Hydra 32s? Well, it really came down to price, availability, and spread. As I mentioned earlier, they did not have the AI Primes in stock, and that's what I was considering going with to get that even spread, but they didn't have them. So availability wise, that was already off of the list. They did, however, have the XR15s, the AP9X, and the AI Hydra 32s. So the next thing was spread. I know that the XR15s and even the Hydra 32s, I believe they've done a little bit of enhancements on the lenses to get a little bit more spread, but from what the people at the shop were telling me is that the 360X was gonna have significantly more spread than the 32s and the XR15s. So why is that important? I was only planning on buying one module, and the reason for that is because most of the rock is centralized in the middle of the aquarium. We don't have a lot of rock on the side, nor do we have a lot of rock towards the back. So if I was able to push that module out, have it high enough, I would be able to get enough spread in the tank for the rock and of course the corals on the rock. So I was trying to find a light that would have a good spread at a certain height for a 24-inch width. Of course, there's gonna be a little bit of fallover light on the side here, and as you guys can see from the walls, this 360X has an insane amount of spread. And so they do make an optic that goes right on the bottom of the module itself, and it contains that light a little bit more. So I've considered getting that just to point the light down a little bit more inside the aquarium, and then possibly raise the light itself a little bit further up so that there's not a hot spot in the middle of the aquarium. From being convinced from the people at the store, I opted to go with the 360X over the XR15s and the Hydra 32s because of spread. Now, why did I go with the 360X over the AP9X? I was so dead set on getting the AP9X. Up until pretty much the day before I went to the store, I started looking at other options, and that's when I decided to go with two AI Primes. And so I went to the store, and of course they didn't have the primes. But prior to me buying this 360X, why did I decide to go with this light over the AP9X? Well, it really came down to price. In reality, I could have afforded the AP9X, but it's really not the best decision to spend that kind of money right now, especially for a tank that it would be somewhat overkill on. Of course, I can turn down the light, but most of these corals are LPS softies and leathers, and an AP9X just really would be overkill for this setup right now. In the future, I can absolutely upgrade to the AP9X if I wanted to. Reason I wanted that light especially is because it has already the built-in Wi-Fi connectability. Instead of with the 360X, you have to buy a dongle to adjust all of the color channels through the light. But with this 360X, it has the power of pretty much one puck from the AP9X, if not a little bit more. So if I really needed to bump up the par level in the tank, if I wanted to go with SPS in the future, I can absolutely get another 360X and a mount and daisy chain them together, and then buy a dongle to change all the color waves. So the light itself, I believe, ran me around $530, and the mount is about $70. So I think out of the store, I walked away spending about $605, something like that. whereas the AP9X after tax and the mount, it would have been closer to about $1,050, maybe even $1,100, depending on how much the taxes was gonna be. So I saved about 400 bucks from going with the 360X over the AP9X. And like I said, if I need to upgrade in the future at any point, I can add on another 360X and potentially have more power, more wattage than the AP9X. So that was the mindset behind it. Coming back to the reason of buying one module, I wanted to start out with one rather than just jumping to the AP9X, which I knew would be enough light, of course, for this tank. But then again, I also knew that it would be overkill for the corals, so I figured why not just start with one module, see if it's enough light, and if I need to add another one, I can. So in reality, I think I saved myself a few $100s with going with one light instead of going with the AP9X, which would have been overkill and therefore essentially wasting money. So I know that was kind of a long explanation of why I went with this light. I never would have considered getting a 160, a 360X. I mean, Kessil, like I said, I really like the company, but I never would have considered getting their single modules. I wanted to potentially try out one of their fixtures. But after doing some research at the shop and then looking at all of their display tanks that have the 360Xs over them, I was definitely sold, especially with the mounting options, because as you guys can see, it's just one single arm, and then the cord gets ran through a hollow aluminum tube all the way down under the fish tank. So it's super convenient to have this setup. I think it looks really sleek. It's one module, like I said. There's two knobs on top. I'll show you guys the adjustability right now. A few things that I don't like about the light. It doesn't have the dongle, or I guess the Wi-Fi connectability built into it. So if you do want to change the color channels, you do have to get the dongle, which hooks up to the light, and then you can download the app and you can, you know, play around with all the different color channels there. The other thing too is for a tank that is this deep, it's 24 inches deep, and then of course I have the overflow in the back. The arm mount only extends out, I want to say 9, maybe 10 inches, and I needed it to extend out 12 inches to reach the front of the tank a little bit more. So that's a couple issues that I have with the light. I think they do make extensions for the aluminum arm mount, so I'm going to pick up one of those. Hopefully it's going to extend it maybe a couple more inches. I think that'll be the right amount that I need to get the light over the rock. They do make, however, a small ball joint where you can angle the light and pivot it in a way so that if you go past the rock, you can pivot it and turn it towards the front so that you don't have light seeping through the front if you're looking at it. I'll throw up a couple photos so you guys can see what I'm talking about. It's a little bit hard to explain. If you guys are familiar with Kessil's like technology, depending on the intensity and the color that you turn the knobs, Kessil's intelligence and their, I guess, software will change each color channel to the, I guess, color that you want it to. So, for example, if I wanted to change the light to be more blue, the light itself is going to adjust the UV, the purples, the blues, of course, the whites, and the greens. I think they even have some red LEDs in there. So when you change the color knob, it's going to adjust all those colors for you so that it gets each of the color channels perfect to grow corals. So whether you want it bluer or whiter, it's really not going to damage or, I guess, harm the corals. So I guess we can go into the functionality of this light. There's two knobs on top. One is for color, the other one's for intensity. And I usually keep the whites and blues 50-50. That way the corals get the blue, but it's not super washed out, so we'll add in a little bit of whites as well. And then on intensity, of course, you can see all the way off, and that is full intensity right there. So it's pretty bright. Just for reference, if you guys are new, this tank is 24 inches deep, 32 inches wide, and 20 inches tall. So I usually keep the intensity at about 50% as well. Just a side note as well, I never knew what this tank was when I purchased it. I actually had a viewer comment down below what the aquarium is, but it is an SCA 66-gallon aquarium, and of course it came with the stand. I think I looked it up on Amazon. Someone's trying to sell one for around 1,300 bucks, which is insane because I got the tank and the stand with new doors and a skimmer and a couple other goodies for 200 bucks. So really good deal. The other thing to mention, since I don't have the dongle for this light, is that there is no adjustability with ramping periods or timing. So I do have it hooked up to just like a Home Depot timer. I'm running it, I want to say 10 hours a day, but I usually get home from work around 8:39. So that last hour or so, I usually turn down the intensity to about 15%, and I turn it on to mostly blue. So it's more like emulating moonlight. But other than that, that's pretty much all I have to say. I haven't had enough time with this light to see coral growth or any other changes. I have noticed more algae growth. As you guys can probably see on the back, there is a decent amount of hair algae growing on the overflow tower. But that's all I've noticed so far. I've only had the light on for about a week and a half. Another reason I went with Kessil, I was, like I said, dead set on the AP9X. I wanted to go with the Kessil light, and I'm really happy that I came across the 360X. But a reason I wanted to go with the Kessil is because of the shimmer. Now I know a lot of people don't like the shimmer, but in my opinion it looks natural. I know in nature, of course, there's going to be shimmering effect underwater, and I don't really want to quote it because I don't want to give you guys false information, but I feel like I read an article somewhere that said light shimmer on corals is actually beneficial for them because, like I said, it emulates sunlight and it's a natural occurrence. So I really do like the shimmer. I think it makes the tank pop a little bit more just because it gives more movement than what's already going on with the corals. So as you guys can see, I'll throw up a little comparison between the shimmer here and the shimmer between the old Aquanite LEDs. So that's gonna be it for today's video. Again, I appreciate all your guys' support. You guys are commenting a ton on my videos and I love interacting with the audience. So if you guys have any questions or you guys wanna comment on anything, just drop it down below and I'll be sure to get back to you guys, hopefully within a couple of days. If you guys have any questions about the A360X, then let me know in the comments down below. Let me know if there's anything I didn't mention or anything that you think I might not know about the light. Again, I don't have the dongle, I don't have the optical lens yet, and a couple other goodies that I can get accessory wise, but for now I'm really happy with the light. It's incredibly easy to use just with the two knobs on top, and so far it seems like everything's reacting well to it. I went through a slight acclimation period where I only was running the light at, I believe, around maybe 30% intensity, still 50-50 whites, but 30% intensity, so that I wasn't going to shock the corals, which I think is important because with any adjustment in an aquarium you should definitely have an acclimation process and try to slowly integrate it into your system rather than all at once. So I did that I only did it for maybe 4 days, which probably should have been longer, but it seems like all the corals are doing well. But yeah, that's all I got for you guys today. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I will catch you on the next one. Peace out.